Welcome to Table for 92, element number 36, Krypton. It's number 36 because it has exactly 36 protons within its nucleus. So Krypton, as well as all the other noble gases, are not found in foods at all. Some are used in food packaging because they don't bind with other elements and therefore displace oxygen, which is the main reason food goes bad. So for Krypton, we're cooking up boeuf bourguignon, Superman's favorite food, with a side of ketchup, as he liked it. If you were wondering, Krypton from the Superman comics was named after Krypton, the chemical element. It's quite a good name, you know, coming from the ancient Greek. It means the hidden one. Kryptos. Very good name for a fictional planet in a comic. And yes, kryptonite is an actual mineral. Kind of. New minerals are discovered all the time, like a lot. Dozens of new minerals are discovered each year. A mine in Serbia gave up a strange mineral back in 2007, and it was sent to a Dr. Stanley, who was able to ascertain its chemical makeup, which is a sodium lithium boron silicate hydroxide, if you were wondering. When he plugged that description into the internet to see if it was an already known mineral, he was surprised to see that it actually existed from the movie Superman Returns, where Lex Luthor steals the kryptonite from the Museum of Natural History, and its description on the wooden box is almost identical to a sodium lithium boron silicate hydroxide. As I said before, Krypton and the other noble gases don't interact or combine with any other elements naturally, so this mineral, kryptonite, so close to the fictional kryptonite, doesn't actually bind to anything, so you can't really fairly call it kryptonite. So instead it was named jadarite, named after the city in Serbia where it was discovered, and unfortunately it's also not radioactive and it's not green. It's pretty boring. It's like a white powdery substance. Alright, so we're gonna cook up Julia Child's famous recipe for boeuf bourguignon. I found something interesting in researching the Julia Child boeuf bourguignon recipe. If you've watched her show from the 60s in black and white, which is like very weird because we're all just so used to the ultra sensory stimulating food porn of today, you'll notice something about this specific recipe though. It's not that difficult. Like every other recipe I've seen for boeuf bourguignon, people just really try to overcomplicate it. Like it's a peasant food. Peasants ain't got time for your pancetta and truffle oil. I mean, by definition, peasant foods are simple and they're filling and they're using cheap ingredients. You know, they're meant to feed a lot of people. So I'm gonna take this 2 to 3 pound piece of chuck and cut it into 2 to 3 inch pieces, pat it dry with a paper towel, brown on all sides. You know, these aren't tenderloins or ribeyes, they're the cheaper cuts of beef. Once the beef is browned, place it in a Dutch oven. Deglaze the pan with 2/3 of a bottle of good Burgundy wine, scraping off all that good stuff. Then add that to the Dutch oven. Then add more beef stock until it's just barely covering the beef. Put it in the oven for at least 3 hours at 325. That's gonna get everything nice, reduced, and tender. When boeuf bourguignon was first created in the European Middle Ages, slow cooking was a very popular peasant strategy to, you know, kick up the flavors of beef and other meats. I mean, slow cooking is always a poor people way to cook. You're using cheap cuts of meat. Maybe it's starting to spoil. You don't have access to the tender cuts that the nobility's stealing from you. So someone figured out a long time ago, slow cooking will tenderize the meat and allow a ton of flavor to get inside. And, you know, in the worst case of scenario, doing that, you're masking the smell of spoiled meat while still getting the calories out of it. Krypton was first found in a flurry of discoveries by the Scottish chemist Sir William Ramsay in 1895. At least that's what my research comes to tell me. If you Google when Krypton was discovered, it'll say 1898, but I've got a great book here about the discovery and naming of the elements that says there was a letter between Ramsay and his wife in 1895 in which he says he found a new gas. But yeah, Ramsay between 1894 and 1910 would discover and isolate all of the naturally occurring noble gases, except for helium, but he was the first to isolate that. And yeah, in turn, he created a whole new section of the periodic table. The first noble gas he discovered was argon, which he immediately realized did not interact with other elements, and as such, named it after the ancient Greek word for lazy. So yeah, none of the noble gases bind to other elements naturally. Scientists in Finland have been able to do it, but they had to mess around with them a lot. So anyway, Ramsay would name these gases as noble because of their lack of interaction with the other elements. You know, truly says a lot about the time they were living in the late 1300s. Bunch of elements that don't interact with others. Sounds like our nobles eating their beef bourguignon with pancetta and truffle oil, all fancy and unnecessary. The discovery of the noble gases, though, was a huge deal, and Ramsay would receive tons of awards, including the Nobel Prize for his discoveries in 1904. But by far, the most prestigious award, no doubt, would come on Ramsay's 167th birthday in 2019, when he was honored with a Google Doodle. Truly inspiring. Look, there's Ramsay, adding the glowing noble gases to the periodic table. It's adorable. Krypton would be discovered in a similar procedure as the discovery of other noble gases. With the other noble gases, Ramsay just evaporated gases from liquid air and analyzed them. This time, the air came from the mineral cleveite, though. A student of Ramsay's extracted the gases, and Ramsay analyzed the leftover bits under a spectroscope that allowed him to observe the atomic spectrum, and he found a new line representing a new element. And at that same time, interestingly enough, this led to the discovery of helium, which was a big deal because helium had been discovered during a solar eclipse in India in 1868, but no one had found it on Earth yet. He was the first. Krypton had pretty limited uses at first, but along with the other noble gases like neon, it's been used in fluorescent lighting. More recently, Krypton's been used in high-speed photography flash lamps, but it's pretty expensive to other noble gases. Like, after all, it only makes up 1 part per million in our entire atmosphere. All right, that's pretty good. There you have it, Superman's favorite food. Even though he doesn't actually need food, or sleep, or air. He is an alien. Peasant food for noble gas. Thank you. See you next time. I think these are great educational videos, and I'm extremely entertaining. So, you know, smash that subscribe button.